Welcome to My Spoonie Sisters, featuring stories from special guests dedicated to empowering those with chronic illness. Our goal? To connect people and provide the support and tools they need to live a better life. For those with chronic illness, our energy levels just fade faster. We must be more purposeful with the spoons allotted to us. So grab your coffee or tea, sister, and tune in as My Spoonie Sisters share stories of living with chronic illness. Hi, my Spoonie sisters. I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite people. I say that a lot, don't I? But this is one of my favorite people. I'm so excited to bring you Brandi, aka you probably know her as One Sick Bee. Hi, Brandi. How are you today?
Hey, Gracefully Jen. How are you doing today?
You know, it was a rough weekend, but I'm alive and kicking.
I'm with you. It has been a little flare, but I'm here. So we're doing it regardless, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm so excited to see your beautiful face. Granted, listeners only get to hear us, but I'm so excited.
Thank you. It's a blessing and an honor to be on the Spoonie Sisters podcast.
So, okay, for those listeners that are not super familiar with you, would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Ooh, I am Brandi, the host of One Sick Bee. I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, which is a possibly debilitating disease. It affects the myelin sheath in your body. It affects the sensors. It affects how the brain sends messages to basically the rest of the body. Excuse me, everybody, if I wasn't exactly correct. I got diagnosed at 17. At the age of 9 through 16, they told me that it was juvenile arthritis. I had my beautiful daughter at 16. 5 months later, I was 17 and I fell down the stairs. She landed on top of me. I lost vision to my right eye and the function to my right side of my body and a couple other things. And at the end of the day, I had optic neuritis. The ophthalmologist sent me to a neurologist, and the neurologist sent me to the hospital and came back after all the tests and said, you have multiple sclerosis.
So how freaking terrifying, A, was the fall and making sure that you didn't drop her.
My baby.
To get that news right after that.
Yeah. I didn't know at 17 what MS was. Everybody else was familiar with it, so it was vague. I can honestly say that now that I look back at it, I might have been in denial because my major focus at that point in time was I had a brand new baby to raise and fight for. So I'll tell anybody, I've told her, she was my reason to fight, to keep going. To keep going anytime you find out something horrific as this, at that age, and you have a brand new baby. And like I said, when I fell down the stairs, I thank God that she landed on top of me. It wasn't the other way around. She was laughing. I was confused. So, and every horror or dark side of anything, there's always that little bit of light. And at that time, her laughing was that little bit of light because she was okay. And that's all I cared about at that time. So she was my reason to fight. I don't know if I hadn't had her and my son, they're only 15 months apart, if I would have fought as hard as I had. And I had other family issues, things that happened to me during this course. But I think that her and my son were my saving grace.
I think back and when I was the same age, when I was 17, I remember hearing about my aunt being diagnosed with MS. And I don't know about you, but back then at that age, honestly, a lot of these diseases I heard about, I just kind of lumped them all together. Mm-hmm. MS, fibromyalgia, RA, all the things. To me, they were just this umbrella of things that we didn't understand. And it almost felt like back then they acted like you're kind of crazy. Like all these things were in your head.
Oh, yeah. I went through that because especially when you are 9 and 10 years old, thank God for my mother. She believed in me. She believed that I wasn't acting because they thought maybe she's, she might be acting a little bit dramatic, or do you think it's that? And my mom's like, no, I noticed the difference in my daughter from the time she wakes up, from the time she goes to bed, because the time I hit school, getting ready for school after 2-3 hours of preparation, and you're on the school bus, I was already drained. Then I had lunch. By lunch, I was drained as a kid. I'm like, I had gym. I told my mom, like, I can't participate in any of the activities in gym. I couldn't do things. I remember being that young and not being able to empty my bladder, and maybe having to take me to the emergency room to get cath. Now, from that age to now, I cath now from time to time to empty my bladder.
Is that pretty?
No, I mean, some people, my bladder goes out, or I have bladder. I'm either incontinent where it goes out, or where I have to cath. It's either or. It varies on the day or the time. But hey, I'm here.
Exactly. We deal with our symptoms. We do what we got to do to get by, and we keep on rolling.
Yeah.
So your kids have really kept you going, and they've just been such a beautiful part.
They were the inspiration. And then at one point, which we all know, my kids now are grown, I had to fight for myself. That was a major shock for me. I know to everybody else, they're like, what do you mean? It's because when you put yourself in your mind, your frame, to think that your kids are the ones that are keeping you fighting, and then they grow up, they turn 18, they're getting ready to leave for college, and you're left by yourself. Who do you fight for? So you have to remember to fight for yourself through that journey.
Absolutely, 100%, because they still need you in their lives, and you still have a beautiful life ahead to live that is worth living. It's just a little different, and that's okay.
Yeah, you just have that initial shock, and then you start talking to yourself, and you say, hey, like, at the end of the day, you have you left. And if you're not there, who's there to love them? Who's not there to... And then outside of that, you have family, friends. You just need to fight for you. Whatever courage, whatever strength, it takes little piece by piece, whether it's pebble by pebble, build that foundation of all those small things you gather from, whether it's strength, whether it's love, whether it's persistence. Oh, that's not the correct word. Excuse me. My articulation sometimes is off with my MS. Grab each little pebble. You fight for your dignity. You fight for your strength. You fight for your own existence. You fight for self-love. You fight for to be proud, to be all these things that create the individual that you are. I'm so sorry. My articulation is so off today.
Oh, honey, you sound beautiful to me. And honestly, even if we're off, people need to hear that off.
Yeah.
To know what it's like to live in our skin.
Yes, definitely. And that's part of the MS. But I want to say, for the most part, going through not just being diagnosed, but I also, during this time, I endured major losses in my family that I speak about it very rarely, but I've lost people during this battle through unfortunate murder. And it gave me another source of strength, because if I had allowed that plague that I felt that was over my family for that period of time to hold me back, and anytime you have autoimmune disease, anything extra can make you flare. The stress of any other issues and going through those family traumas of those deaths, I had to fight for myself, because I knew that if I let that major plague, that death, that it would hold me back. It would hold me captive, and I wouldn't be able to be me. And I know that the people that I lost would want me to shine as bright as I could regardless, because they wanted me to shine as bright as I was when they were alive. I
love the fact that you're answering my questions before I even ask them.
I'm sorry.
I love it. I love it. It just means we're on the same wavelength, because I was about to ask like how you dealt with the stress and how it affected your body. And it sounds like you do a pretty good job of kind of holding
I can be honest. This is not for everybody, but it's for me. I put my faith in God. God has been my source of strength. When I can't get up in the morning, I look to him. When I can't get up in the morning, I look to him. When I can't see, I look to him. When I can't see, I look to him. He has always been my source of strength. And I believe without the faith that I have, I would have never been able to get through it, but God. And I feel like if God has brought me 21 years fighting primary progressive MS, and I'm still living that he had me here for a purpose. And so my purpose was to inspire others or to let everybody know that they're going through these things, that we still can do it. And that's the reason why I started One Sick Bee. The definition of One Sick Bee is a strong individual that faces unimaginable, undeniable, courageous battles that life throws at you without warning, but you refuse to carry the spirit of brokenness. And all through these things that I was losing family members to murder, and I was losing family members just to health, all these things are those unimaginable, undeniable, courageous battles that gets thrown at us without warning, but we refuse to carry the spirit of brokenness. And I refuse to carry that. Because I feel like a lot of people, and it's natural, if they haven't healed, that weighs them down. But I knew that I had to release that. And the best way I could release that was give it to God. And I felt like he's the person who kept me going and grounded.
So do you find in your moments of struggle and pain and fear, you're in constant prayer and worship and
definitely constant prayer. And there's a song by Marvin Sapp, and it's called Praise Him in Advance. So while I'm going through these things, I always tell myself better days are ahead, and praise Him in advance.
Calling all Spoonies. As a host of a chronic illness podcast, nothing lights up my day more than hearing from you, our incredible listeners. Whether it's a topic close to your heart that you want us to uncover, or you are keen to show your own journey as a guest on our show, your voice matters. Living with chronic illness can often feel isolating, but through the power of podcasting, we can come together as a community to uplift, educate, and inspire one another. Your stories, insights, and questions drive the conversations we have and the topics we explore. So if there's something on your mind, a story that you are just itching to share, or a guest you'd love to hear from, don't hesitate to reach out. Your voice is not only welcomed here, but celebrated. Let's continue to amplify the voices of those living with chronic illnesses and create a space where everyone feels heard, supported, and empowered. Together, we are stronger.
That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. I love you.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I just want people to, if it's something that motivates them, whatever it is that motivates you, it might not be religious, it might be spiritual, it might be, what do you believe in, the layer, the stars, or the sky, but just praise it in advance that you're going to overcome it. Act as if you've already received that blessing, that healing, that whether it's mental healing, whether it's physical healing, where it's spiritual, whether it's just parenting, right? Just going through parenting. Just praise him in advance for what he's getting ready to do. Because if you praise it and you act like you already have received it, you're going to have it.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. And, I don't know about you, but on the days where I just cannot find the words to express what I want to say to God, number one, I know he knows what I'm thinking and he knows my heart. He always knows. Mm-hmm. But if I cannot come up with the words, I just start singing.
Yeah. And it brings it to you. It brings you to that's still a place of worship. And I feel like people need to find their saving grace. I don't know for me, like I said, my saving grace between my family, my kids, and of course the head of my life, those were my saving grace. And I just say, praise him in advance, because even when you're in your darkest, deepest moment, you have to pick out that little light, whether it's just a crack or a little glimpse of something, and snatch hold of that. Because if you don't, you can get in a dark place, and that's where depression sets in. That's where people decide that they want to commit suicide. And when you're going through something severe that holds your body back and it holds your mind back, you don't know if you're going to get out of it. It's hard. It's hard to see the light. But I ask people to look for that shining light. That's why we created these platforms. You created Spoonie Sisters, so that we all, the Spoonie Sisters, can come together and say, hey, today sucks, but tomorrow's going to be great. Or today's a great day. Can you believe it? I'm walking without an assisted device, or I walked 4 steps a day without having to sit down. that is what we build this community for. And I appreciate you creating the fact the name of your podcast is just amazing. You know, Spoonie Sisters, the fact that we have all different types of sisters. And the thing with chronic illness, people don't realize it doesn't matter what age you are, what culture you are, what race you are, it hits you. And you become a Spoonie automatically. So we join and collaborate, and that's Spoonie Sisters. That's you.
And before you know it, you have friends and sisters across the country, across the world.
Definitely.
People that are going to send you reels to make you laugh on a dark day. People that are going to make you laugh, make you cry, virtually hold your hand, check in on you. Heck, last week for my birthday, I had a friend send me a banana to make banana phone calls. You never know what you're going to get. You just don't. And so to join these communities and meet all these amazing people, it's another way of filling the cup, right? And it's another way of supporting others when they're newly diagnosed.
Yes.
I mean, oh gosh, the benefits are just beyond amazing.
And I didn't know anything about it. Like I said, I was 17. Where do you look? And everybody at being 17, like you said, the people that I only knew that had MS or these autoimmune diseases might have been Montel Williams, Richard Pryor. And at that time, when I thought of Richard Pryor, I thought of the paralysis side of the disease, because that's what he had primary progressive. I had primary progressive. That was my fear until I had to step on the face like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He had a whole different life before that. He had a hard childhood. He had drug abuse, and those things also take effect on your body too. So I had to make sure that kept on telling myself that we're two different people. We might have the same disease, but no two people are alike, and to keep faith. So.
Absolutely, because we might have a lot of similarities in what we deal with, but it's not always going to be 100% the same. And so we've got to find that crack, that light, that mustard seed, whatever it is.
That mustard seed. Yeah.
Yep. Keep us going. And sometimes on a really dark day, all I have to do is log on my IG and I see you and so many other amazing people.
So many amazing people out here.
Sometimes you guys are that light, that crack, that mustard seed, that thing I need that day to remind me that I'm valuable and that God has me here for a reason. And so for that, I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that I met you. And
I'm thankful to meet you. I'm thank you for us embracing each other, to shine light in each other's life. It is beautiful. And I encourage anybody who's listening to make sure they follow the Spoonie Sisters, to follow me, One Sick Bee, and just be encouraged and to know that you're more than what you feel. You are enough. You are magnificent. You are powerful, and you are riveting, and you are who you're supposed to be. You are created uniquely distinct from anybody else. But your uniqueness, whether it's your disability, whether it's your speech, whether it's anything that you feel is a negative, is also a positive because somebody else is going through the same thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so I have a couple of questions for you.
Okay.
What are the top 5 things in your Spoonie toolkit?
The Bible. My Maserati, which is my scooter. I feel great when I'm on my Maserati. I love flying past people in the mall and in the stores. My massager. It's my son bought it for me. It's a massager and it's a heating massager.
That sounds fabulous.
I bought it. My father. That of course, a great cup of tea or coffee. Because it either relaxes me at the end of the day, a cup of tea, or the cup of coffee gives me that boost in the morning. Shout out to the Spoonie Sisters for their great cup if you guys don't have one. And that was fun. Let's see, that was the cup. That was a good one. Oh my gosh. Well, how many was that? 4?
Oh, I lost track.
Yeah, I did too. The scooter, my Bible. my cup, my resources, things that, and when I mean resources, I mean my journal. I always write when I'm having a bad day, I write myself a letter about how horrible the day is. So the next day or 2 days later from now, when I can't get through something, I can look back at that letter and see everything that I have went through.
Sorry, I had to pause it.
No, I was making sure you were all right.
I choked on my own saliva.
I do that frequently with my MS. So I was making sure you were all right.
Glad it's not just me.
And I don't know. I think that was 4 or 5. My Bible, my Maserati. You keep on going because I think I'm stuck on the 5th one.
That's okay. That's okay. So let's go back to as a parent. As a parent, how did you manage what you were going through in your illness, but parenthood as well? Like, were your kids pretty understanding about?
I'm to be honest. My kids, since my son has been born, I've always had MS. My daughter was 5 months. I, as a parent with a disability, help. I'm trying to think of the correct word. Not build them, but not manipulate. That wouldn't be the correct word. I molded them to fit to help me accordingly to my disease. So I made them semi-independent in certain ways that other parents didn't. We sang the cleanup song when we were younger. I just don't have the energy to clean up all those darn toys. So I don't care if we sing the cleanup song 5 minutes in a row, we're going to clean up the toys and put it up. I made them things that were easy accessible when they got to the age where they're used in the microwave. I need them to know how to make a sandwich. I needed them to know how to make noodles. I need them to know how to make small things, peanut butter and jelly, simple things that can help them for when I'm tired and they're hungry. I can say, why don't you make a sandwich? Why don't you make some noodles? Why don't you do this? That way they could do it on their own for when I wasn't feeling good. I kind of created a system in my household that helped me parent. Now there's, believe me, basketball games, all those type of games I still went to. I went to it whether it was on my walker, whether it was on my scooter, whether I was limping, long as I was visibly there and they could see that I'm there. I go there in pain just because I wanted them to have the support. And I also have raised my kids to know that there's no excuses. If I can go to college and I can do all these things, my kids watched me walk across the stage and I needed them to see that, to know that there's nothing that they can't do regardless. If I'm doing all of this with this autoimmune disease, I really didn't break. They didn't know the definition of multiple sclerosis until they got into high school. And high school, I sat them down of their freshman year and I said, hey, I'm about to read something. I read WebMD's definition of multiple sclerosis and some of the symptoms. I think it was just the symptoms. And I said, what does this remind you of? And they're like, oh, Mom, that sounds like you. And I was like, well, you're getting older and I don't want you to, something's wrong. But now I feel like you're old enough that if you read about it or you look it up, that distinctly that those things that you're going to see, that doesn't all refer to me. So I did tell them in high school what it was, the actual word for it. And before that, it just, Mommy doesn't feel good. She has something going on, something a little funny. And we just molded around that. Sorry, that was a long answer.
No. And, I think back, and when my daughter was little, I wasn't diagnosed. But right. If I really, really think back, who knows how long I was having problems?
Yeah.
I always thought, I did sports in high school and I was active and I was a runner. I did mountain bike riding and rollerblading. So I just always assumed I was healthy. But what I didn't think about was the horrible endometriosis that I had. In my early 20s, I was divorced, raising this young daughter by myself. And my job was very hard on my body and my wrists would give out on me all the time. And I worked as a supervisor at Arby's, and I would go to take trays out of the oven, cookies, and I cannot tell you how many times I almost dropped those cookie trays.
Yes.
And I kept thinking, what in the world is wrong with my wrists? And it wasn't until more recently that I'm like, did I have problems that I wasn't even seeing?
Yeah. Because
And
we don't know.
exactly. And I look back and I'm like, you know what? Whether I was a healthy parent or not, I think just as parents in general, we come up with these ways of helping our children also help us. Because sometimes we get the flu, we get a
Yep.
cold, and so we're not always super helpful. So teach her how to make the mac and cheese, or my go-to besides teaching her how to make things, I called it the nest. So if I was having a really long day, for one thing,
That's where they go to.
yeah, I got up at 4:30 in the morning for my job because the Arby's I worked at served breakfast. So I had to be at work at 5 a.m. and I would sleep till 4:30. I would quickly get ready and get going. But it was a long day. So by the time I got off work at 2, I was done. My sweet daughter was so hyper and excited and wanted to play with mommy. And sometimes I'm like, you know what? Come over here in the nest on the couch. I'm going to curve my legs around, make your little nest. We're going to watch Monsters Inc. today.
Yes, those are great. That is great. That's great. That's I had kids that used to could sit on the end of the bed while I wasn't feeling good and watch it too. My son was my attachment baby. When I didn't feel good, my son would not leave my side. Now, on the other hand, my daughter, it was always and always has been harder for her to be around me when I'm sick. When I go to the hospital, she wouldn't talk to me. I used to cry like, "Hey, how are you doing?" Oh man. It used to hurt my heart. My son, he would be in the hospital like, when are you going to fix her? Are you going to get her better? Da, 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 da. My daughter she was very, everybody deals with stuff differently.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that, each kid can be so, so different in personalities, but it's kind of like our diseases. Our diseases can be so different in different personalities.
Yeah.
So what kind of advice would you give to other people that are dealing with a similar disease or the same disease as you?
Ooh. Give yourself grace. So you have something else added onto your list. Is it going to be hard? Maybe. Can you make it harder by always walking into the situation negative? Yeah. So change your perception. Everybody goes through different things. I feel like you need to embrace the person you are. People always say the person that I was. This battle gives you a different layer of strength. It's a different type of armor you put on. You will not know how much strength you have until you're walking in this journey. I say, go in without assuming. Don't assume you're going to be this. Don't assume you're going to have that. Just because you see somebody else going through the same thing. Never assume. Just walk through it with grace and patience. Don't rush the process. Every time I used to have a flare up in the beginning, I was like, I need to hurry up. I need to get here. I need to go there. But that slows down the process of healing. So just walk through it. I always say when I'm going through a flare up, that is my time that God's basically putting me in a timeout. That means that I need to either worship more, Netflix and chill more. Just give yourself that time and grace and know that this is something that you're not alone in. You can reach out to somebody and don't be nervous or embarrassed because some of the situations we go through, you would feel that they're embarrassing and you wouldn't want to speak about them, but believe that, baby, somebody's been through the same thing you've been through.
I think you are a prime example of, I can do all things
through Christ who strengthens.
Yes, exactly. I think you're a prime example of that. Truly. I mean, because I'm thinking and I'm picturing you, getting your diploma and walking across that stage and showing your kids that, and showing up for all those games and all those events.
Yeah.
You can do all things. You can.
You can.
You're a prime example.
You trust and you believe and you allow him to give you that grace. You allow him to give you that grace. Give yourself that grace. You deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put your own back against the wall. Don't put yourself in a corner. Don't do that.
Not worth it.
It's not.
Okay, let's see here. What should I ask you next?
I don't know. I feel like you did a great job. You did a great job.
What do you like to do for fun?
Ooh, I was a water baby. And I say was because I used to like to swim, like diving, snorkeling, and now the tank is too heavy for me to do diving. So if I like snorkeling and water sports. I'm definitely a water baby. I like water sports. I like going to the beach. I am black girl magic in the pool. I was the black girl magic, the one who didn't know how to swim out the group because my mom put me in swimming lessons. So I do love that, and I love a great book.
What
I
kind of
do
books
still.
do you like?
Um, I love spiritual books, books that are empowering, and I also like a couple fiction books that are somebody's story that they're overcoming something or just something mysterious. But a lot of times I'm into these books that give me empowerment and encouragement. Like
You
Sarah Jakes Roberts, she's an author. She's been a great author. She's also a preacher, but she's a great author.
okay? Well, we better check her out. So, what would you say out of everything that we've talked about, or even things you haven't mentioned? What would be your most defining moment?
Wow.
I feel like you've named so many.
My most defining moment was when the University of Kentucky reached out to me to do an article. It's a We Are Proof campaign. It's a campaign that shows that the University of Kentucky, that they show proof of what some of their medical doctors and treatment are. And the name of the campaign was Fighting 10 Times Harder. And it was me telling my story of how hard it was for me to find a doctor who believed what I was going through, being a minority woman. That was one of my, outside of graduating high school and your kids, of course, nothing can top the birth of your kids. But I would say that MS article that they wrote on me, We Are Proof, it kind of, for me, it sealed the deal that I was walking in the right direction of everything I was going after, as far as starting One Sick Bee. And that was a defining moment. And being an advocate for the MS Society and getting ready to speak to legislation, about what we need, pharmaceutical drugs. And well, this year's topic is research and basically air transportation, being able to help people who are disabled fly. I guess I answered two, but those were my defining moments.
That's awesome. And I think you kind of touched on something I wanted to ask. So you were young, you were 17, but you were
Mhm.
also having problems before that. So as a young woman, also a minority, how do you feel like you were treated? Were you taken seriously ever at all?
I feel like my first doctor that diagnosed me, he was great. I lived in Illinois and I moved to Kentucky and went to college. And I felt like when I had got to Kentucky, I felt like being a minority, it was harder for them to believe that even though they seen the medical records, I feel like some of the doctors kind of took it as a joke. So I was blessed that I did find two great doctors that believed in me, who also looked at the medical proof and seen it. Because it was difficult. I feel like as a woman, it's difficult because as women, they don't believe anything we say. It doesn't even have, outside of being a minority, right? Number one, as a woman. Number two, then being a minority. But like I said, I only felt that moving to a state that's less minority based. So, but other than that, like I said, my first doctor in Illinois, he believed me. But coming here, before I found the right doctor, it was terrifying. I was a druggie. I wanted medication. I wanted all those things. That's what they say. But like I said, then finding the right doctor at the University of Kentucky, and him being, he is a specialist he's a neurologist, MS specialist for minorities, and finding him and him being able to understand and to be able to tell me that it was true that minorities usually with multiple sclerosis suffer a little bit harder than average another American. That was, battling that was my another saving grace, finding somebody who researched this and they knew. I think I
Well,
lost.
and I think people need to take it seriously. Doctors and specialists need to take it seriously that, it doesn't matter what age or race or if we're male
Exactly.
or female,
Yeah.
we are all people, but
Yes.
not only that, all of our genetics are a little bit different. So you
Yes.
might be more predisposed to something than I am, but I might be more predisposed to something than you are. And so on and so on.
Yeah.
And so to have us go to a doctor and have them either act like we're drug seekers or push drugs on us, it's horrible. And I almost feel like when I go to an appointment, I can't go in leggings and a sweatshirt. I need to look like
appropriate,
more put together. Or
that's so sad because we feel like crap. And I pulled up and I can be honest, I'm with you. I pulled up to the doctor's office exactly some days how I felt. And my mother, when I got diagnosed, my mother and my grandmother used to say, hey, you need to get dressed. You don't have to look how you feel, right? That's just how they always have been. But when you're tired, you have a sweat on, you have leggings, jogging pants on, because you're going comfortable. And like, they're looking down on you, baby. I'm here at the doctor to get help, not to style and profile and show you the professional side of me, because believe me, I have that. But I don't feel good. I don't want to get dressed.
And sometimes I can't do my hair and I can't do my
makeup. Definitely. Yes.
And I don't want to pretend that I can. I don't want to spend all my spoons in the morning to get ready for an appointment just so I can impress a doctor.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, where can listeners find and follow you?
They can find me on Instagram on 1SickB1, the number 1 SICB_podcast. They can find me on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast at. And I'm also on Facebook, but mostly Instagram. I'm very active on. That's where they can locate me, or through you.
Yeah. And I will make sure to have, all kinds of fun information about you in the show notes and links and all the fun things.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you guys, you need to go check out Brandi on 1SickB. She's got so many amazing interviews you need to hear. And she's just a light you need to listen to. So,
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much for joining. And I hope we get to chat again soon.
Yes, thank you for all that you do. And thank you for shining light on many Spoonie sisters, and even more than myself. Thank you for allowing me to share my Spoonie story and for receiving me. And I appreciate you. You have received me since day one. And we've been playing tag back and forth.
We do.
But I appreciate you, what you do for our community.
Well, I love you, sister.
Love you too.
All right. Until next time. Don't forget your spoon.
The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. The information should not be taken as a replacement for medical, clinical, professional advice, diagnoses, or medical intervention. My Spoonie sisters and guests will not be held liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Trigger warning. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, and chronic disease. You are advised to refrain from listening if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. None of the guests or hosts will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Life is not merely to be alive, but to be well. Living a life with a chronic illness is best described with one word: unpredictable. Be Well's products are designed to make the unpredictable easier to deal with. Back when I was getting my infusions, I would have loved to have their adult zip hoodie. They even have one in pink. They also have everything from one-day pill holders to urgency buckets. So remember, they want to make your life a little easier. So be sure to check out Be Well.